Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the greatest challenges of the night for me, because our Freedom Award for Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski is not only intended to honor him for all his many accomplishments, a lifetime of intellectual and political commitment to freedom's challenge, but we also are presenting this award on behalf of Poland, but not on behalf of Poland's past, which we've celebrated a lot, but on behalf of its present contributions to freedom and democracy around the world, and for its future possibilities from Belarus, as Lee Feinstein says, from Belarus to Benghazi. From the early days of its transition, Poland has remained committed to ensuring that human rights and democracy would be pillars that sustained the successful transformation of Central and Eastern Europe after the Cold War. It has helped make democracy assistance and promotion an existential theme of the European Union. Indeed, I would question whether it would be so much at the center of EU thoughts and talks were it not for Poland. Minister Sikorski, last year you put democracy back on the global agenda with the high-level democracy meeting in Krakow, where you gathered 114 countries, including 87 official government delegations. You stood in defense of democracy activists worldwide and rallied foreign ministers to join you in this act. We at the Atlantic Council played our small role launching the Young Diplomats for Democracy and highlighting the role of youth months before the younger generation played such a key role in the Arab awakening. As Poland's post-communist transformation flourished, so too did its strong civil society, as more NGOs opened in Poland, committed to sharing the lessons of solidarity with its neighbors through cross-border programs in Ukraine, Belarus, Georgia, and further afield in countries such as Cuba and Burma. Poland went from being one of the largest recipients of democracy assistance from USAID and the National Endowment for Democracy to becoming one of these institutions' strongest partners for implementing democracy assistance programs in other countries. I dare say that we're now learning from Poland what democracy assistance is about in the United States. The Atlantic Council has been honored to work with one such organization, the European Institute for Democracy. Another such initiative was the creation of the Polish Committee for Solidarity with Cuba, launched with one of our previous Freedom Awardees and Solidarity hero, President Lech Wałęsa, and which also includes two of our guests with us here tonight, President Kwasniewski, another Freedom Awardee, and Atlantic Council International Advisory Board member, and Dr. Janusz Onyszkiewicz. Poland's courageous leadership on Cuba policy has been critical in raising awareness in Europe about the Cuban regime and its human rights record. This year, Poland celebrated another great achievement in global democracy efforts, the legal establishment of a Warsaw-based Secretariat for the Intergovernmental Community of Democracies. We're proud to say again that an Atlantic Council alumnus, Michał Syfianek, is working with Professor Bronisław Misztal to lead efforts of the newly established Secretariat. Just last week, the Community of Democracies and U.S. State Department led a mission to Burma, which Senator McCain participated in, to urge greater democratic change in that country. Next week, Foreign Minister Sikorski will be in Tunisia and Egypt carrying this work forward. With Poland as EU president, Mr. Minister, you will be instrumental in mapping the European Union response to the Arab awakening, which I dare say may be as crucial as the response was in 1989 from the West to what was happening across the former Soviet bloc. During your tenure as foreign minister, we have seen Poland take up more strongly the cause of its eastern neighbors, pushing for a more proactive European policy toward the east. Poland's launch of the Eastern Partnership Initiative has played a critical role in anchoring pro-European reforms in countries such as Moldova, Poland's efforts to promote democracy in Belarus, and to encourage others in Europe to do so as well, have been courageous and we hope game-changing. We honor you tonight personally, Radek, but we also honor Poland as a country for helping to advance the cause of a Europe whole, free, and at peace, and realizing that this challenge has now stretched way beyond Europe's borders. For all of that, Minister Sikorski, dear Radek, it is a distinct pleasure to present you with a much-deserved 2011 Atlantic Council Freedom Award, honoring you and the Polish people.
President Kwaśniewski, President Dudkiewicz, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, when Jesus entered Jerusalem on Palm Sunday and he was cheered, the donkey thought that the cheering was for him. I promise you, I will not forget that this award is accepted by me on behalf of the Polish people. It means a lot to us. The son of this land, the blessed Pope John Paul the Great, said that freedom cannot be had, it must constantly be won. How true and how prophetic. While many of us in Europe and in the West take freedom for granted, others risk or sacrifice their lives for it. Neda Aga Sultan, a young aspiring musician, shot point blank by a regime thug on the streets of Tehran. Andrzej Poczobut, a journalist of Gazeta Wyborcza, a prisoner of conscience in Belarus. Hamza Ali al-Khatib, a 13-year-old boy, tortured to death in Syria. Today, we honor some of these heroes of the struggle for freedom. The representatives of the Belarus Free Theatre, the Human Rights Center Vyazna, and the Belarus Association of Journalists. They are an eyesore for Alexander Lukashenko, for they remind him that all people are endowed with certain unalienable rights, among those life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That governments derive their powers from the consent of the governed. We have with us, it's already been mentioned, the Egyptian blogger, Ezra Abdel Fattah. She is the face of Egyptian youth who used technology to organize together so that they could go out on the street and topple a despot. I salute all of you. Mindful of Poland's painful history, we Poles cherish freedom dearly. In early 19th century, the Poles' rallying cry was, "For your freedom and ours." 150 years later, the struggle continued. This time, the calling was solidarity, and we've honored some of the heroes of that time. The Poles were lucky to have friends who helped us regain freedom and democracy. Brave Americans like Senator John McCain, who is with us tonight, or indeed the late Ronald Asmus, who first dreamt of Poland and the rest of East Central Europe in NATO, at a time when everyone else thought it was a pipe dream. I am personally grateful also to many friends in Great Britain. After the martial law was imposed in Poland, they gave me, an 18-year-old political exile, a temporary home. Now it's time for Poland to give back. Dictators delude themselves thinking they can crush the craving for liberty. Time and again, history proves them wrong. Ideals and values can be stronger than the chains of tyranny. What fires people up is an intrinsic sense of dignity. We who are fortunate to enjoy freedom and democracy can and should help. Senator McCain once wrote, "Nothing in life is more liberating than to fight for a cause larger than yourself." He has lived true to this motto. So did Secretary Jean Acheson, one of the founders of the Atlantic Council, an architect of the Marshall Plan and other policies that helped preserve peace in Europe. We need the same vision, the same bold action to constantly win freedom. That's why, a few years ago, Carl Bildt and I proposed the Eastern Partnership, a program of cooperation to help entrench democracy and free market in Eastern Europe and the Caucasus. It works not only because EU member states and Brussels are on board. It works because there is no shortage of fine leaders in Eastern Europe, strong-willed reformers, looking at their country and people beyond the electoral cycle. Let me salute Prime Minister Vladimir Filat, who is one of those diligent reformers. Thanks to the partnership, we are tearing down walls that separate the EU from its partners and neighbors in such areas as trade and mobility. As the Arab Spring began to unfold, I told my colleagues in the EU that we should set up a European endowment for democracy. I thought we needed a flexible tool to transfer Central Europe lessons learned in a democratic transition to support the fledgling civil society initiatives and other forms of democratic rejuvenation. This project, I hope, will be launched during the Polish presidency in the EU later this year. Poland will supplement this with our own International Solidarity Fund. Here in Poland, we do not take freedom for granted. It is, as has been said earlier, in the DNA of all people, but perhaps in Poland, the experience of regaining it is so fresh, we feel it in our bones. And that is why I pledge to you that we shall not cease in promoting the freedom and democracy agenda. Thank you very much.